What's up, everybody? Nick Dwyer back for the 10th inning, giving you another edition of This Day in Sports History. In our last episode, we saw a one-arm pitcher striking out 13 batters in an 1884 Union Association game. We won't have anything quite like that today, but we have a lot to get into. If you're new to the channel and you liked what you see, consider hitting that subscribe button down there. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like on it, comment, and let's get into it. This Day in Sports History. Starting out in 1922, Henry Greb defeats Gene Tunney, giving him his only loss in his professional boxing career after a 15-round unanimous decision. Tunney ended his career with a record of 82, 1, and 4. And he fought Greb 5 overall times. We only think what could have been if he could have defeated Greb in his first try. Sticking with boxing, in 1941, Joe Louis, the heavyweight champion at the time, defeated Buddy Bear in disqualification after 7 rounds. At the end of the 6th round, Louis knocked Bear to the ground, and on a 9 count, Bear ended up getting up. Shortly after the round ended, Louis didn't hear the bell though, so Louis went over and knocked Bear. Once Bear put his hands down, Bear was essentially knocked out at that point. His side tried to get him ready to go in the next round. That just wasn't happening though. Bear was essentially knocked out. He wasn't getting up. His side tried to get him ready. It wasn't happening though. So at the start of the 7th round, Bear's side was into the ring claiming to the referee that Louis should be disqualified for hitting him after the bell. Well, the referee did not disqualify Louis. He basically said, if you guys don't get out of here, let your man fight, he's going to be the one that gets disqualified. That's exactly what happened. May not be the best title defense in the world, but Joe Louis ended up defending his title successfully once again against Buddy Bear. Moving up to 1948, we have Joltin' Joe DiMaggio hitting 3 consecutive home runs for the Yankees against the Indians. His first home run came in the top of the 4th inning against Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Feller. His second home run of the day came at the top of the 6th inning against Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Feller. Can you guess who his third home run came off of? Well, you guessed it. In the top of the 8th inning, his third home run came off of Bob Moncrief. You thought I was going to say Feller there, didn't you? No. His third home run came off Bob Moncrief. DiMaggio hits 3 consecutive home runs in 3 consecutive at-bats for the Yankees. Sticking with the Yankees, in 1962, Joe Pepitone becomes the second Yankee to hit 2 home runs in 1 inning, joining Joe DiMaggio. In the bottom of the 8th inning, down 7-4, Pepitone started the inning with a home run off of Pfister to right field. And then the lineup went around again. He came back up with 1 out in the inning, ended up hitting a 3-run home run off of John Wyatt in a 9-run inning for the Yankees, ending up giving the Yankees the 13-7 victory. Moving up 2 years, in 1964, Dale Green sets a women's marathon time at 3 hours, 27 minutes, and 45 seconds. Now this record was broken less than 2 months later, but it's still a world record. She actually defeated the previous world record by 10 minutes at the time. So although her world record didn't really last long, it's still a world record. At the 8th European Cup Winners' Cup in 1968, AC Milan was going up against Hamburger SV, and Milan ended up defeating Hamburger 2-0, with Kurt Hamrin scoring goals for Milan in the 3rd and the 19th minute, and that ended up being enough for a 2-0 victory. Moving up to 1981, boxer Wilfred Benitez becomes the youngest 3-division world champion in the history of boxing by knocking out with an overhand right champion Maurice Hope in 12 rounds. Benitez became the first boxer in 43 years since Henry Armstrong to win world titles in 3 different weight divisions. Moving up to the 34th European Cup, AC Milan ended up defeating Benfica 1-0 to win back-to-back European Cups. Frank Rijkaard ended up scoring the game-winning goal for Milan in the 68th minute to give them their 2nd consecutive European Cup trophy. In 1991, Philadelphia Phillies pitcher Tommy Green no-hit the Montreal Expos as the Phillies ended up winning 2-0. It wasn't the best no-hitter you've ever seen. It was a no-hitter nonetheless. Green, 9 innings pitched, 7 walks allowed, 10 strikeouts, 130 total pitches on the day. 130 pitches. Not something you would ever see in today's game, especially with 7 walks. But he had a no-hitter going. It was a good thing. Manager kept him in. He got the no-hitter. More importantly, he got the win. In the 1992 NHL Prince of Wales Conference Championship, the Pittsburgh Penguins not only beat the Boston Bruins, they straight up demolished them, 4-0. The first game was won in overtime by the Penguins. After that, the Penguins held no mercy. They won every single game in blowout fashion, including Game 4 in which they won 5-1 with Mario Lemieux scoring 2 goals in that game to advance to the finals. At the 9th UEFA Champions League final in 2001, Bayern Munich was going up against Valencia. The game was tied 1-1 after extra time. They ended up going to penalties. Well, Munich ended up defeating Valencia 5-4 in 7 penalties. Interestingly enough, when you looked at this game was won by penalties, both goals that were scored in regulation were actually scored on penalties too. But Milan ended up winning on penalties 5-4. Also in 2001, Marco Siffredi becomes the first person to snowboard down Mount Everest via the Norton Couloir. His record is actually shared with Stefan Gatt. There's a big dispute there. Gatt actually made it up there a day earlier, but didn't come all the way down on the snowboard. Siffredi did, so there's a dispute there, so they share the record. And Siffredi went down 8,848 meters to base camp. Sadly though, this wasn't when it would happen, but this would end up being the demise for Siffredi. Over a year later, he attempted to do the same thing on a different couloir, ended up being lost. The body was never found. Still an incredible feat by Siffredi, but again, ended up being the demise of him. Going to the 2003 Eastern Conference Finals in the NHL, the New Jersey Devils ended up beating the Ottawa Senators 4-3. The Senators went down 3-1 early in the series, winning the first game, losing the next 3. But that wasn't enough for them to give up. They ended up winning Game 5 and Game 6. Game 6 in overtime to force a Game 7 in Ottawa. In Game 7, it was a back and forth game. The Senators were up 1-0 after 1. The Devils were up 2-1 after 2. The Senators scored early in the third period to get a tie game 2-2. But with 2 minutes left in the game, Jeff Friesen ended up getting the game-winning goal for the Devils, enough for them to advance to the finals. At the UEFA Champions League final in 2007, AC Milan defeated Liverpool for their 7th title. Milan won their 7th title, they had 6. Liverpool was going for their 6th title. This was the same matchup 2 years prior where Liverpool ended up winning. This time was different though. Milan knew they needed the victory and that's exactly what they got. Filippo Inzaghi ended up scoring 2 times, one that was controversially deflected off of his arm for a goal in the 45th minute, which was not called though, ended up having Milan go into half, up 1-0, and then he also scored in the 82nd minute to put Milan up 2-0. Liverpool tried to come back with Dirk Kuyt, ended up scoring in the 89th minute, but it ended up being too little too late. The controversial call ended up being enough for Milan to get the victory when, yeah, it wouldn't have been this way, we all know, things change, but it looks like it easily could have been a tie. That call may have changed history right there, but Milan got the win because of it. Then finally in 2010, the NHL Western Conference Finals, you had the Chicago Blackhawks going up against the San Jose Sharks. Kind of like the Bruins earlier in this episode, the Blackhawks ended up destroying the Sharks, winning the series 4-0. The Blackhawks won the first 2 games on the road, had a chance to win it at home with the next 2 games. Chicago took Game 3 in overtime for the chance to sweep. The Sharks got out to an early 2-0 lead in Game 4, but the Blackhawks, they ended up tying the Sharks 2-2 after 2 periods. Then 6 minutes into the third period, the Blackhawks scored. And then with time running low in the game, they ended up adding an empty net goal to beat the Sharks 4-2. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. Let me know if I left anything out. Let me know the most interesting thing that happened on this day. For Nick O'Dwyer and the 10th inning, stay safe out there. See you tomorrow.